Welcome to Bet On It. I'm Kelly Stewart, your host tonight, and we're going to break down this week's NFL card with Gianni, the Great Gambler, and Marco D'Angelo. All right, guys, you ready to get this week started? Prime time, Sunday and Monday night games.
Wait, remember last week, though, we have some unfinished business.
Oh, it's prime time from here on out. Listen, when we left the studio here, I thought Sam Darnold was going to be under center, and the spread was what it was. What, 3.5?
Yes.
I get home, everything changed. I'm not going to put the reputation of myself on the line without Sam Darnold there.
With Trevor Siemian in one quarter.
Not even a quarter, half a play. I'll bet it.
Yeah.
But in fairness to the viewers, we're either going to call you prime or
week
tied
off.
for
I'll
1
take a week off. I'm in the penalty box. I'm in the penalty. I'll take it.
Fair enough. We'll all take our L's and sit here in our sorrows because I ended up with a bet. I don't really talk about it. All right, next. Sunday night, Rams at Cleveland. Rams now -3. Total 49. Marco, I'm going to kick it to you first.
Yeah, you look at this one, both teams have scheduling disadvantage. You know, I like to look at situational stuff. You've got the Rams. They're going to be going cross country. Think about their schedule so far. They started the season week 1 in Carolina. Then they come back home, play that monster revenge game against the Saints, and now they got to come back across country for a Sunday night prime time game against the Cleveland Browns. Cleveland, they got a short week off of the Monday night game, but they were able to take half that game off because the Jets were as pathetic as you could possibly be.
They were. But the Jets defense showed me a couple signs of life. Or was it Baker Mayfield who showed some signs of weakness?
Baker missed a lot of wide open guys. His throws, we were watching a game on Monday night, and I said, Jesus, how many times is he going to overthrow wide open receivers? And, it's a new offense, new coaching staff and everything else, a lot of hype, but they got the job done. Coming back to Cleveland is going to be absolutely nuts. Sunday night game, I don't know if they've ever had a Sunday night game in Cleveland.
And now they're on every week this season. It's like they're primetime Cleveland Browns. Everybody
jumped on the hype train with Baker Mayfield after the way they played last year. And I'll tell you what, the play they got with Odell Beckham Jr., he just accelerated past the defenders. What a touchdown play. And I know our buddy Ralph, when we were watching the game on Monday night, he had a bet on he would score a touchdown in the game, so he got a nice little win there.
There you go.
He got a little excited as he broke clear there, and I think this is a game that the Browns can win. Last week for the Rams, I was on the Rams big last week. Yeah, I caught a break with Drew Brees getting hurt, but the Rams still played good from the word go.
I think so too. VR, I'm going to kick it to you, but my concern here with laying points on the road with the Rams is how the road and home dichotomy is between the Rams at home in the Coliseum and on the road. We've seen multiple times last year especially, Jared Goff tends to have vulnerabilities on the road.
Well said. And let's not forget, they're coming off such a huge game. They had to show up against the Saints after a whole offseason Marco touched on last year. It's not just the Saints that have a chip on their shoulder. It's the Rams. But it's hard to have a letdown when you're playing Monday Night Football. Sunday night, especially when you're going into Cleveland, that they're going to be primed and ready. I haven't bet this game. Here's what I can tell you. Here's what I can share. Wise guys, betting syndicates, call them what you will, guys that I provide accounts for that win long term, they bet the under in this game. They bet under 51 as soon as the total went up. I haven't betted. I take a percentage of the account, so obviously I want them to win, but I didn't piggyback it for myself or release it to my subscribers because I only share what I think are the strongest plays, the ones that I'm actually going to piggyback and bet on top of, not just take a percentage of. And I'm just not convinced of betting this under with the Rams and Cleveland, especially coming off that low-scoring game that Cleveland did on Monday Night Football.
Yeah, we're already seeing it head towards 49.
Yeah, and I think even if you were going to piggyback it, now that it's through that 50 and that 49, I think that value's gone anyway. And as far as the line goes, I think Rams at a pick'em at -1, I could see why the line's gone to 3 because that's what I made my line here. I thought the Rams should be a 2.5, 3-point favorite. So now where it sits, if I'm betting it, I'm just betting for action. I know that the point spread's what I think it should be. So I'm simply, again, laying 11 to 10. if I win, it's good luck. If I lose, it's more or less bad luck. But I don't think either side gives me where I feel comfortable. I'm getting a lot of value.
One last thing on the Rams. Week 1, Todd Gurley was good. He had 97 yards rushing on 14 carries, 6.9 per carry. Last week, he dropped down 16 carries, 63 yards for 3.9. My concern with Todd Gurley is, the first game he was rested. They didn't use him in the preseason. We saw last year at the end of the season, they rested him the final few weeks of the season. He came back. First game of the playoffs was a big factor. The second game of the playoffs, he wasn't. And again, it kept diminishing. If he still has problems with that knee, and seeing that regression from week 1 to week 2 is a concern for me. And him, a healthy Todd Gurley, and then obviously Cooper Kupp, a big addition for them getting back from the injury last year. But they need all the pieces to be working to win on the road. I'm on Cleveland.
All right, VR, let's head to Monday night. Chicago -4, total 41.5 at Washington. Now, the Redskins, there's another L for Kelly. My best bet did not get there for me against the Dallas Cowboys. And I'm kind of looking towards Washington here. Primetime home dog, catching points. Again, I'm not sold on the Bears. I won with the 2.5 with the Broncos. Very happy there. Probably shouldn't have won that game. Lots of questionable calls. Don't want to incite a riot on social media. But that being said, I want to back Washington here. I just don't know if it's the right side. It doesn't feel like this Washington team is quite as complete as we saw in that first half versus the Eagles.
That's the fear, that what does Washington really have when you peel it apart and look deep? What is there to get excited for? I said in the first week, they're as mediocre as it comes. Now you have a Chicago team, which, listen, they all the excitement coming into the season about how good Chicago is going to be. Most sharp guys expected a regression. I bet season win total under. I even bet they won't make the playoffs myself. So now they're sitting at 1-1, coming off a nice win at Denver. You saw how that game ended. Most bookmakers are going to tell you their week's going to come down to the outcome of 2 games, Sunday Night Football and Monday Night Football. And the reason's simple. Bettors that are ahead look to double up. Bettors that are behind look to catch up. And we saw that last week. Books had a great day on Sunday, lost it all back. In fact, that Monday night loss was the worst loss they've had so far out of any game. Sure, we're only 2 weeks into the season, but it stung. And I'm not saying that you want to fade the public, because if you're not getting 11-10, you're not going to get rich doing that. But you need to know that the job of the bookmaker is not to predict the outcome of the game. He's not putting a point spread out there and saying, this is what I think is going to happen. He's putting a point spread out there to limit his risk and be able to turn a profit off that 4.5% hold that they have built in, just like every other game on the casino floor. So when that's the case, you got to know going in, they're going to shade this Monday night game. They don't want what happened last week to happen again today, that on Monday. At least they're going to make you fight for it. Not saying, because it's not fixed or anything like that. It's simply Chicago should be about a 3-point favorite. They jack it up 4.5 or so, 5. And trying to make you take the worst of it. I think by the time we get to Monday night, there's going to be so much exposure on Chicago with teasers, with moneyline parlays. I wouldn't be surprised to see this line go higher, especially at the square books, to be able to get a 6 on Washington. And to me, that's a little bit attractive, because I think Washington does have the ability to stay in the game with Chicago. Because, again, I've seen nothing from Trubinsky to make me think he's so much improved. He can't throw the ball past 20 yards successfully. And in today's NFL, you're not dinking and dunking all the way down. You've got to have some big plays. And I don't see that on the Chicago side.
Marco?
It's not often I disagree with Ace, but I'm going to disagree with you here on this one. And here's what I'm looking at. I think people come Monday are going to want to take that prime time home dog, 0-2, desperate, their season's on the line, and they're going to look at the fact and say, okay, Washington's 0-2, but they lost 32-27 against Philadelphia, close game. And remember, in that game, they got the touchdown late to get the backdoor cover. They blew a big lead in that game early. But then the next week, and I was with you, I agreed with Washington last week against Dallas. Dallas beats them 31-21. But it's like they put up points. They weren't totally trashed in the game. They're going to look at Chicago and say, 3 points against Green Bay, and they struggled to get 16 points against Denver. My thing is, Green Bay's defense is much improved this year. They shut them down on that Thursday night game, and then you look what Green Bay come back and did last week. They held Minnesota to 16 points last week. Denver, we know, has a good defense, and Denver had the added advantage of Fangio being the former defensive coordinator of the Bears. He knew the best way to stop the Bears, and he did. I think you're going to see the Chicago offense open up this week and have success. Washington's given up 32 and 31 points in 2 games. Case Keenum in this Washington offense are not going to be able to run the football against the Chicago Bear defense.
That's the key, is that defense can win games on their own.
So now if you can't run the football, you're asking Case Keenum to put the team on his shoulder with his arm. And I am not buying into Case Keenum having to win a ball game for me. I'm going to go ahead and take Chicago here. Yeah, it's the second week in a row on the road for them. It's not a good scheduling spot. But I look at, and let's not forget this stat as well, Washington Redskins. And I know when you cite stats like this, people say, wow, half these players weren't on those teams.
Right,
no, they weren't. But the history of Washington on Monday Night Football,
it's terrible.
They're 2-12 their last 14 on Monday Night Football. I can't do it. I'm going with Chicago here. I'm going to lay the points, and I'm going to wait till Monday night and hope we get some of that Monday night home dog money come in and get me a little better number.
I don't think it's going to come in, but can I get either one of you to jump on the under with me? You mentioned the Bears defense. You mentioned the lack of offense that the Redskins are going to have. I think the lack of offense that the Bears are going to have, I think this under 41, 41 and a half, 42 even some spots looks rather attractive.
It does. There's going to be, you know what, it's going to look attractive. People are going to look the casual better, and they see a 41 because a 41 in today's NFL.
Oh, my God.
Is a 35.
Yeah, that's a 35 or 36, 10 years ago.
It's going to be hard for them to go under.
Yeah,
it's going to be hard.
The general public is going to
go under.
If you're betting the under, Kelly, wait till game time, and you're going to, because it's going to creep up on game day when John Q. Public makes their pizza bets.
All right, great stuff, guys. We're going to step out for a quick break, but when we return, we're going to go into the numbers as we look at which NFL games have moved the most and why. That's up next on Bet On It.
Don't miss a single play from your favorite wagertalk.com or sportsmemo.com handicapper and save money while doing it. With a 90-day package, you get every play your favorite handicapper releases over the next 3 months. This includes all sports and any 5% plays that sell for $40 by themselves. The normal cost of a 90-day package is $8.49, but this week only get a 90-day package for just $5.99. Hurry, this offer ends Sunday at midnight.
Okay, guys, it's time to take a deep dive into some of these lines that have moved. The Westgate here in Las Vegas always puts out the NFL lines a week before. They call those the look-ahead lines. You can bet on next week's games before this week's games have even been played. Once this week's games are played, next week's line will change. But the question is, are the moves justified or are they an overreaction by the public? Now, we are going to skip the 2 biggest moves, Dallas and New England, because why? The Jets are a dumpster fire. Miami's an even bigger dumpster fire. And I got to keep this segment to under 10 minutes so I don't get yelled at by the producers. So let's go. Green Bay opened -6.5, now 7.5. I believe I even saw an 8 earlier. No 8s. Marco.
It'll probably get there, Kelly, because they're going to want to slow down teaser action, but it's justified. Denver hasn't put up any points. Green Bay's look good. When we say stuff is justified, that doesn't mean we agree with that side, because I will tell you, be careful of Green Bay. They're coming off back-to-back monster division games. This is a classic letdown spot for them, so be careful with Green Bay, but the move is justified.
VR, Denver should be 1-1. We kind of touched on it just a minute ago. Whatever. And Green Bay almost blew that game to the Vikings. I mean, is there cause for concern here?
Listen, I agree with exactly what Marco said. I understand why the move was made, but now I believe that gives you line value on the underdog.
Okay.
One of the groups I work with, they actually took +8 on the Denver Broncos. So there's this sharp money that doesn't think the line should have moved. But I agree. The book, again, getting back to, they got to protect themselves. And if they know money's going to come in on one side, you'd be foolish not to shade the numbers. Like if you're a bookmaker in Philadelphia and 99% of your clients are Philadelphia guys. They're not wise guys. If the Eagles are playing Monday night and the line's Philly -6 out here, I'm going to hang up 7 or 7.5.
You have to.
You have to. Middle me. Go bet it somewhere else. But you're not. Your job is to protect yourself. It's not to let the bettors get the best of it. So I agree what the books did, but I think it's going to cost them on the sharp side. There'll be more than enough Green Bay money from the casuals to offset that.
Okay, I'm going to stick with you. Buffalo open -4.5, now -6. Listen, Cincinnati, for lack of better words, got steamrolled by the Niners. Buffalo kind of smacked around the Giants, but now Eli's bench, so that whole facade to me is interesting. Now, this line move, is it justified?
They're 2-0 against the Jets and the Giants. I had Buffalo in week 1, and I shouldn't have won. I shouldn't have cashed that ticket. I got lucky. I cashed the ticket. There's no reason at all Buffalo should be above a field goal or not even 4-point favorite in this game. In fact, I made my line 2. Buffalo, I don't think Buffalo's that much better than Cincinnati. I really don't. I think they had a great schedule. They got to play in the same stadium on the road in back-to-back week against arguably 2 of the worst teams in all of the NFL. So you're 2-0. You're not laying a touchdown now. No chance.
Marco?
Double overreaction. They're overreacting to what Buffalo has done and are overreacting to what happened last week in the Cincinnati game. Remember, they were all over Cincinnati in that game. That line crossed to Cincinnati being the favorite, and they were wrong.
Because they looked so good against Seattle.
In the public.
I did not want to touch that game at all. I was like, this just screams something scary.
I love to see when the public jumps over the fence. They were on one side last week, and then they go to the other side the next week. I always say,
late and $1 short,
when
baby.
you cross over that fence, be careful, protect the family jewels as you're crossing over, because sometimes you can catch them on the fence. Overreaction.
All right, Marco, New York Giants at Tampa Bay. Wow, Jameis doesn't throw any picks. They beat the Panthers. Now, to open 3.5, now 6.5. It's Daniel Jones time for the New York Giants.
The move is justified because you're looking at a rookie quarterback.
So do we think that there's a 3-point fall off?
Because of the inexperience factor.
Okay.
But later in the show, I'm going to be talking about this game in detail. So I'll just say I understand the move and it's justified, but we'll talk about my side in the game later.
All right, VR.
Quickly, I reached out to a really sharp guy that I trust that power rates all players pretty accurately and asked him, what is the drop-off, from Eli to Jones? And he said, I'll tell you quickly, Ace, the drop-off from Eli to Alex Tanney, who was, the Monmouth College kid that the Giants had, was 0. That drop-off would have been 0.
Wow.
He said, so to Jones, it may even be an improvement instead of a drop-off.
I liked what I saw from Jones in preseason. We'll see how that ends up panning out. All right, I'm going to stick with you. New Orleans at Seattle. No Drew Brees. See Teddy Bridgewater. Seattle opened -1, now -4.
Overreaction for sure. Listen, Brees had a phenomenal career, decades. But I think the Saints will be just fine. Listen, he wasn't expected to play last week. He got thrown into that mix. It wasn't a good result. But now with a week of practice with the first-team offense and giving Sean Payton time to devise a scheme to help Bridgewater be more successful, because he's not running the same playbook that he would have with Drew Brees.
Of course.
And let's not forget, you're going to see 2 quarterbacks. If you could get a prop bet at over 1.5 players, throwing a pass like they do in the Super Bowl, Saints are playing 2 quarterbacks on Sunday. You're going to see Hill back there as well. It's not just going to be Teddy Bridgewater. They're going to throw a lot of stuff at Seattle to get that offense going.
All right, Marco.
I agree with the line move is there. I think it's a little bit high. We understand why they do it because Brees is one of the premier names in the NFL. But what's Seattle done? I mean, let's be realistic. They beat a Cincinnati team. They were life and death against them. And then they beat my Steelers without Big Ben.
The Legion of Boom left town years ago.
This is too much of an overreaction.
Okay. Pittsburgh at San Francisco. No Big Ben. This line has now moved 5.5 points from -1.5 to 7.
It's moved more than that.
Is it even higher now?
No, Pittsburgh was 1.5. The look ahead was Pittsburgh.
I can read. So sorry. Pittsburgh -1.5. Now San Francisco -7. Now, part of that is because the Niners are 2-0. Part of that is because the Niners just steamrolled Cincinnati. But mostly it's because Mason Rudolph's now the starting quarterback.
And could I ask you my question, too, because you know this team better than I do and the players? the difference between Dobbs and Rudolph, like they got rid of Dobbs, so they don't have. He would have been backup, right? He was going to step in. Now, what between Dobbs and Rudolph, is there a big drop?
I put Rudolph ahead of
Dobbs.
I did, and that's the reason.
That's what my man said too. I want to see you because you know Pittsburgh.
That's the reason the Steelers went ahead and traded him away to get something, because they had a team that was desperate and needed a quarterback. Now, Pittsburgh wishes that they would have kept that to have, an experienced backup there. But I'll tell you what's going to happen here. The line, this is way too many points of an overreaction. Throw in injured player theory.
Jimmy G broke up with the porn star, too. That's always bad news.
How did you hear that, TMZ?
That's bad news. Someone was telling me that I forget where I heard, probably driving, and I was like, how's that going to affect the betting line right now? If that happened to me, what would I feel like?
How would you feel?
I guess it depends on if you wanted the breakup or
I think
not.
how your wife would feel about that.
Relieved and heartbroken at the same time. Probably the same way I'd feel, relieved and heartbroken.
Oh, God. Okay.
Yeah, this is one thing. If you're a fantasy player, okay, and you have James Washington on your fantasy team anywhere, use him, because him and Mason Rudolph, whenever they played in the preseason, always had big connections. Goes back to the Oklahoma State days. They have chemistry. That'll be the guy when Juju's getting the double team, the guy that's going to get in there, and he's going to get playing time, because Moncrief, I call him Butterhands, the guy's dropped as many passes this year as he's caught.
Yeah.
He's been absolutely horrible. They're not going to throw the ball to him. He'll be riding the pine. James Washington will get a lot of targets with Mason Rudolph in there at quarterback.
Okay, last but not least, VR. Rams open -1.5 now, -3 at the Browns. We kind of touched about this in prime time.
Yeah, it's understandable. I mean, coming off that big game against the Saints, granted, backup quarterback and all. And again, Cleveland won on Monday night, but how much credit can you give them against the team they played?
Yeah, to me, I think it's an overreaction. Cleveland won, but they're getting penalized because
Who they beat and how they beat,
the Jets
yeah.
suck so bad.
Yeah.
They still won the football game. They went on the road.
But they had to settle for so many field goals.
And they had so many defensive penalties.
The penalties have to stop. They had 18 penalties.
Yeah,
in
you
week
don't cover
and
games like that, let
penalties
alone win them.
In week 2. I guess you could look on the bright side if you want to find it. They cut the penalties in half.
True that.
Okay, great. Time for us to take a break, but when we return, it's time for the Steam Game of the Week and the Sandwich Game of the Week.
Looking for more NFL betting info? Then tune into the presidential address each week when Wager Talk's own Lawrence Presman, the Prez, along with Kelly Stewart, break down this week's entire NFL card. The show is available every week exclusively at Wager Talk TV.
This is going to be a fun segment all season long. Each week, Gianni is going to give us his NFL Steam Game of the Week, and Marco is either going to bring us his Sandwich or Trap Game of the Week. Gianni, let's start with you. Tell me what your Steam Game of the Week is. Oh, by the way, I almost forgot. You're 2-0 so far to start the season on these Steam Games.
Perfectly undefeated. Again, this is the pay-per-view portion of our show for you. We ain't giving this gold away for free. That much I can promise you. But I have a side and a total in the same game. This is so difficult when you're holding gold. Like, what do you want to give? You want to give the left or the right? I want to give you both, but I'll give a side. I went back-to-back total, so let's go with a side. And it's the New Orleans Saints, +4.5. You could get that right now. It's across your screen. There's even 5s out there at open 5.5. It's a dead number. You don't need it. Saints could win this game. They really could. But just the point spread's wrong, and that's the most you can hope for, and that's why this is a steam play. It's one of the games that the betting syndicates got behind and steamed. They also bet the game over. I'm throwing that out as a bonus, only counting the Saints side for the record. But I agree with that over as well. Saints is the side, man. We talked about the line moving way too much and just not being warranted. And that alone, I think, is key, because here's a real quick stat for you. We already know the sportsbook, their hold is 4.5%. When you lay 11 to win 10, it's 4.5%. Now, there's only 6% of opening lines. So out of every 100 opening lines, only 6 of them on average offer about 10% value. Now, you say 10%, that's great, but let's not forget, you got to overcome that 4.5%. So there's only 6 out of 100 games that offer you about a 5.5%, return on investment, where it's worth you taking a position. You got to be real selective. More times than not, it's luck when you win and bad luck when you lose. It isn't like you took advantage of the lines. But here's an opportunity where you can do that, because I think this is way off. So let's grab that 4.5 right now.
All right, Marco, time for your sandwich game of the week. And Marco is also 2-0, eating those, on traps.
Yep.
But now
I'm hungry now. I went 2 weeks without a
sandwich.
sandwich. I got to have a sandwich
Don't get me started on Marco's blood sugar, guys. It's going to be another show.
Kelly's like a mom.
Kelly, the dietitian.
Oh, yeah. Kelly, this is one people are going to look at and say, are you kidding me? But this is the perfect sandwich spot, and this is what we look for. The Tampa Bay Bucks. What'd they do last week? They played on prime time, Thursday night, against Carolina, division rival. Go in there and upset Carolina. Did they upset Carolina, or did Carolina shoot themselves in the foot? That's a different story. But that was a big win for them. Now they return home, play the Giants. You know, non-division team. And wait a minute, let me look at the schedule. Who do they play next week? They got the Rams on deck next week. Now, if you're Tampa Bay and you just beat Carolina and you got the Rams on deck, are you really going to take the 0-2 Giants seriously, who just benched their quarterback, Eli? False sense of security throw in there for Tampa Bay. Throw in, you know, this is almost like the injured player theory with the team going to rally around because, you know, the locker room, there was a lot of people the last year that thought Eli should have went last year. They made the change now. You don't know what a rookie's going to do. He could go out there and be a total bust. You only have what he did in college and what he did in the preseason. And, you know, preseason, we know teams don't blitz, don't game plan, different things like that. But what the plus side to that is the defense doesn't know what to prepare for either, Tampa Bay. There's no game film on Jones yet, okay? You're going to go back and look at college, which is insignificant because they're not running college plays here in the NFL. And the preseason stuff is vanilla. They're going to have a game plan suited for him, and that gives the Giants an advantage. And part of the Giants' reason that they're 0-2 to start is they're -4 in the turnovers. If he comes in and just has a clean game, that improves this offense right there. And the Giants, let's face it, they played Dallas the first week, and then they played Buffalo the second week. The overreaction is how bad
significant drop-off
is to the Buffalo game. They're going to bring their A game this week. The team's going to be excited. This is their future. Daniel Jones, I'm going with the New York Football Giants plus the 6.5.
3.5, you were good. At 6.5.
We'll take it. All right, guys, time for us to take a quick break, but when we return, it's time to walk the dogs. Barking Dogs is up next.
Every Monday at wagertalk.com, all plays are just $9. This even includes top-rated 5% plays, which normally sell for $40. There's no better day to get winning picks than $9 Mondays at wagertalk.com and our sister site, sportsmemo.com. Like our videos, then subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the notification button so you'll always be the first to know when there's new content available.
Welcome back. You guys know this is my favorite portion of the show because I love those underdogs. And we know Gianni likes to have those little sprinkles on the money line. So what guy, whew, I can't even talk right now. I am so excited about the dogs. So what dogs are we looking at this week? Marco, I'm going to start with you.
All right, I'm going to go with a purebred pedigree dog here. We got a 2-0 team that has looked absolutely fantastic in the first 2 weeks. That is the Baltimore Ravens. Yeah, I realize Baltimore's had 2 easy games. They played Miami, the worst team in football. Then they played Arizona, rookie quarterback, rookie coach. Yeah, so they've looked good. But they're going against Kansas City that's coming home for their first game of the season home. Yeah, that's going to be exciting, the home opener for the Chiefs. But guys, have you watched the Chiefs defense? They have not fixed it at all. And you're going to be surprised when you say, going in, and I was one of them too. I didn't think Lamar Jackson was ready to be a starting QB in the NFL. Last year, all they did is had him under wraps running the football. They've opened it up.
He's legit, man.
They've opened the offense up. Right now, they are tied with Kansas City as the number 2 offense in yards per play, 7.6 yards per play so far. What's been the big difference? Well, they're letting him throw the football. Why is he so successful? 71% completions. He's got a 7.0 touchdown to interception ratio. I think the addition of Mark Ingram now makes that running game even more tough to stop because when they go with the run-pass option, You've got to worry about Lamar keeping it and going. You've got to worry about Ingram getting the football. And now, if you're really concerned about that running game, it's opening up the passing lanes, and they're taking advantage of it. Harbaugh, he played the preseason like it was the regular season, and it's paying dividends now. This team is in midseason form, and we're only in week 3. I can't lay the points with Kansas City. Can Kansas City put up points and blow Baltimore out? Yes, it can happen. But I think they're going to be able to run the football, control the clock, and they're going to hit them for some big plays off of the run-pass option. I'm going with Baltimore. I'm taking the points here, and we'll go from there.
All right, VR, who are you sprinkling on this week?
Yeah, for me, it's simple. No reason to give you more reasoning, and we already went over a lot of these games. So it's strictly Saints-Steelers. Sprinkle them both. It's put a dollar parlay, gets you a little over 8-1. A $100 parlay gets like $8.25, $8.50, right around there. Both those teams very capable of winning the game outright on the road. Money line's too high. Those are the sides.
All right, guys, we are going to take a quick break, but when we come back, it's time for us to tease you just a little bit. That's next on Bet On It.
If you like betting on horses, be sure to check out WagerTalk.com's own Sig, who zeroes on one racetrack at a time, offering his handicapping skills. Visit his homepage daily for his top selection in each race free. If you want all his selections for that track, you can get his full racing report for just $9.
We listened to your comments. You guys wanted it, so we're delivering it. You want us to give you our teaser of the week each week. So Gianni, Marco, going to give you a 2-team NFL teaser of the week in this week's segment. VR, going to start. Ooh, super sexual. Look at that little teager. All right.
Over it.
Over it, VR.
That was actually Kelly.
No, it was not Kelly. Oh, I can hear this now. Marco's having way too much fun with these graphics.
He's loving it.
VR, who is your 2-team teaser for this week?
All right. Let's just go simple here. We're going to tease the Patriots and the Cowboys.
I was like, wait, what? I was
like
so
everyone
confused.
else in line, like everybody else.
Wise guy card away.
I was
Everybody
like,
else.
wait, what?
Let's start off Thursday night game, Jacksonville at home. We could tease them up over a touchdown. It's a home team going through those key numbers. That's the only reason I would ever tease, to get that advantage. Otherwise, just straight bet. You're not going to make money any other way. But I'm going to tie that teaser to the primetime Sunday night game, and we're going to take the Cleveland Browns. The last time they were at home, they lost by 30. Now they return there. I think even if they don't win this game, you're getting 60 minutes of effort. And I always say the time I want to back a dog is if they have the ability to win straight up, or at the very least, they're going to give me 60 minutes. Because if they give me 60 minutes, that back door stays open. And getting this up, you're getting through to key 7. We already got past the 3 because of where the line is. But now we're almost at double digits. We are at double digits where it's at. I don't think they get blown out. So we'll go with 2 primetime games for the teaser, Jacksonville and Cleveland.
All right, Marco.
I'm going simple here. I'm going to take Atlanta against Indianapolis. Indianapolis returns home. You got Jacoby Brissett. They've played remarkably well. They've been in both of their games.
Yeah.
Were able to steal a game against Tennessee last week. Tennessee shot themselves in the foot several times. I just don't see them getting separation against this Atlanta offense. Yeah, Indianapolis, their defense has improved this year. I'll give them credit for that, and they have to. They got to compensate knowing that they're not going to be able to get in shootouts without Andrew Luck. But I'm sorry, you give me Atlanta and let me get through those key numbers, get over the touchdown, I got to take Atlanta here. I just don't see separation. The other game that I'm looking at, this one's simple. You got Minnesota and you've got Oakland. Minnesota's going to be in a foul mood off of that big game against Green Bay. They lost that game. They had opportunities. They fell behind 21-0, and then they came storming back. I was on Green Bay.
The Minnesota side.
And, you know, I'm holding my breath with the Green Bay game. Never should have been close, and we got to sit there and sweat that game. And Kirk Cousins, well, he's Kirk Cousins. He's going to make a bad throw when it's on the line. But he's not going against the Green Bay defense, which actually has improved this year. What's not improved this year is the Oakland defense. That Oakland defense is
Are you kidding me? They were up 10-0 on the Chiefs and couldn't stop a nosebleed.
Well, they stopped them the first quarter, the third quarter, and the fourth quarter. All the points came in the second quarter, but that's all they needed because they couldn't score anything. And let's look at Oakland. Oakland's had back-to-back big games. They opened up that Monday night game, and then they come right back. Short week and had to play another division rival, Kansas City. That's a spot for me where I'm going to go against that team. You're asking me, tease Minnesota down? Just win the game? Oakland's not going into Minnesota and winning. Tell me that. And Minnesota will not take anybody.
I like the Minnesota side.
They won't take anybody for granted. Remember?
Not at home.
This is a team that got beat by Buffalo last year,
Very
Lane.
true.
That big number. They're not taking anybody for granted. Send it. Atlanta, Minnesota, as you say, free money.
Easy, baby.
Free money.
Free money. Up next on Bet On It, TNA with Ralph Michaels. Did you know every Tuesday is $2 Tuesday at wagertalk.com? We pick the hottest handicapper and offer his best bet for just $2. This is a great way to introduce yourself to the winning handicappers at wagertalk and sportsmemo.com.
All right. Last week, I stated if you like money, you're going to want to come on board, and we're going to keep it simple. Put the nonsense aside. If you like money, you're going to want to jump on board again. Saturday last week, what did we do? 6-5-6-1. Sunday came back, hit a 5% play, and turned a profit overall with the package. That's what I'm here to do. Win for you overall, win for you long term. I got an all-access on Saturday. I got an all-access on Sunday. There'll be 4% plays, 3% plays, maybe even toss 5% plays in the mix. We're here to drop bombs. Get on board.
Welcome back to Bet On It. It's now time for one of my favorite segments of the day, TNA with Mr. Ralph Michaels. But before Ralph gives his two favorite systems in the NFL, I'm going to give a little shout out to Ralph. Normally, Ralph's package $119 for a week, but Ralph, this week,
you know what? We're off to a great start in football. 9-2 run currently. A 7-day all-access package at Wager Talk is $119. If you go to my Ralph Michaels page at wagertalk.com, 2 weeks of service for $119. 2 full weeks of college football, 2 full weeks of the NFL. Any baseball I throw in there, $119.
I like it. All right, give me all of the trends and angles.
Well, 2 NFL systems. And again, the difference between systems and angles, systems apply to a situation in the NFL that any team that fits into that system is a play, where an angle is team specific. Looking at early NFL teams, week 2 through 4, if you are a home team off a loss and you only rushed for 50 yards or less, you are 2-17 against the spread.
Wow.
Now, later in the year, you don't have that same record. Teams make adjustments. There's teams that like to pass first and rush. But early in the year, it seems everyone wants to establish the run, get the run going. And if teams don't run successfully one week, teams find that weakness and play against. The 3 teams that fit the system this week, Arizona, Philadelphia, and Washington. So Arizona, Philadelphia, and Washington are play against because they're in a 2-17 situation.
Wow. I'm really glad to see that Washington stat because I considered going back to them again this week. Ooh. All right, next up.
Finally, home teams that played weeks 1 and 2 on the road. Well, you would expect you're finally back home. You have an excited home crowd, your home opener week 3. Well, they are 10-25-2. 28.6% against the spread.
Wow.
I'm going to give you a couple subsets as well. That's Buffalo, KC, Indianapolis, and San Francisco. If you look at a team that's a home favorite after being on the roads week 1 and 2, you are 6-20-2, 23.1 against the spread. All 4 fit into that category. But the last subset, if you are a home favorite of 6 or less, so you are back at home, a small home favorite against a good foe, you are 2-14 against the spread. That's the Indianapolis Colts this week.
Woo! Ralph just over here dropping bombs. We're headed back to Bet On It and our best bets.
Want up-to-the-minute scores and odds direct from Las Vegas? Then check out our Wager Talk odds page. You'll get all the latest lines along with moves as they happen from all the biggest books in Las Vegas, including Westgate Superbook, Circa, Golden Nugget, Wynn, Stations, CG, and South Point, just to name a few. Best of all, it's absolutely free.
This Saturday, I'm releasing another of my famous 5% major wager plays. 3 weeks ago, I released Virginia minus 2.5, an easy blowout winner, 30-14. Then 2 weeks ago, I released USC minus 3 as a 5% major wager, and USC won 45-20. We did it again last Saturday. Iowa State plus 1.5, won 18-17. This Saturday, another 5% major wager play, and it's the big one, my 5% game of the month. It's my major wager play of the month. Get this play by itself for just $40 or for just $59 more. Get all of my plays for a 7-day period for just $99. This is normally priced at $119. Last week, our football selections went 8-1 for the week. Join me this weekend and cash again.
We are back. There's only one thing left for us to do, so let's dive into our best bets of the week. I'm the biggest loser here from last week, so I don't think I should go first, but Marco always says ladies first, so I will. Reluctantly, 1-1 on my best bets on the season, kind of hurts, but I'm going to take the Baltimore Ravens here. Listen, I can hear Kansas City fans just chirping on my timeline and in my inbox right now. This is not a bet against Kansas City. This is a bet on the Baltimore Ravens. This is a bet on Lamar Jackson, and this is a bet on too many points. Kansas City has now become the New England Patriots, where you're paying a premium week in and week out. We saw it last week with the Raiders. Tons of Raiders money came in late, and they didn't get it done. I know this is the first game in Arrowhead to start the season, but after back-to-back road games and that defense, I have no choice but to take the points here with the Ravens. All right, VR, you are up next.
I had a winner last week, and what am I? Actually, I should be 1-0 and a no contest. That first week shouldn't even count. The quarterback got knocked out in like 30 seconds. I had to give a quick shout out to Prez. I saw a little, Gianni sent me a link of a little imitation of me he did today.
No,
it was
his,
beautiful. I loved it. If I was more narcissistic.
Like him, if you and him had a son.
Oh, God.
Like the fusion of.
Oh, it would be amazing. I love the guy, honestly. And
he's crazy.
what's
I
not
was
to love?
laughing the entire time.
He should have his own show. Well, he does, but you know what I mean. On TV for everybody to watch. So let's get.
Prez has a show?
You know what I mean.
I knew that was coming from Marco.
network television. All right, I'm going to give you a play. I really love this side, and that's the Cincinnati Bengals. Listen, again, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but everything else is just fluff. All the reasons. Last week I told you there's probably no, and please don't take this the wrong way, but nobody really watching is in any position to, what did I say last week? What was that? To
question you?
Question your expertise?
Thank you. Okay. Thank you. I didn't want to say it again and sound cocky, but I don't mean
no,
it
you're
like
going to channel that inner Prez.
What I'm saying is you're trying to get value on your bets, and please don't take this the wrong way again, but it's very hard to make money betting sports. The books have a 4.5% hold on every dollar you bet. Blackjack, they have less than a 1% hold. And just because people can count to 21 doesn't mean they could beat that game. And because people watch games and Sports Center and all that, I'm sorry to break it to you, that knowledge is not enough to overcome that 4.5%. You need more than that to look at it like forget the results. I always say focus on the prices, the numbers, getting the best of it. Long term, it'll take care of itself. And Cincinnati offers us that this week. There's absolutely zero reason the Buffalo Bills returning home should be a touchdown favorite, -6.5, what have you, against this Cincinnati team. Absolutely nothing. You have a second-year quarterback who's as inconsistent as they come. Again, now you're laying all these points. I'm telling you, I think you're going to see the Cincinnati team you saw in week 1. And that team's capable of winning on the road, let alone covering a 6.5, 7-point spread. So give me Cincinnati. The line opened, 4.5 was the look ahead, up to 5, now up to 6, whatever, 6.5. I already said sprinkle the money line, but I took the Bengals.
All right, Marco, best bet time.
I agree with this Cincinnati play. We got home with our best bet last week with the Rams. This week, we're going to stay in L.A. I'm not going to call them San Diego. It is L.A. Chargers. But we're not taking them, but we're not betting against them either. I'm going with a total this week, and it's Houston Chargers. We're looking at a total 47.5, 48 out there. I love this over, and I think you're getting a sweet number because the public is looking at last week's 2 scores from these 2 teams. You had Houston in a 13-12 game, and you had the Chargers in that 13-10 game against Detroit. I watched that entire game because I had a big play on Detroit. We cashed a ticket. We've already talked about it. We were lucky. Doesn't matter. We got the money. They don't take it back because we were lucky. And don't you love whenever people want to? Oh, you were lucky to win that game. But when you lose a game that way, nobody says anything.
Oh yeah, like man, bad beat. Don't worry about it. That was a bad beat.
Yeah, they can't say that. Heaven forbid.
Yeah. This is what I'm looking at. The Chargers moved the football up and down the field last week. They shot themselves in the foot every which way you could. They shot themselves before they even pulled the gun out of the holster. Missed field goals, fumble at the 1-yard line, going in for a touchdown, interceptions, goal line. They should have had more points. And Ace, that whenever a game starts and it starts to play out, either you've got that tempo early or you don't. And once you get into a dogfight game, then it changes the dynamics of the game because now you are in this low-scoring game and you start to play field position, and it's going to be a one-possession game.
What great information and picks. Seriously, if you can't make money off this show on Sunday, you'll never make money betting sports. There's a lot of good stuff,
Then you go to Houston. They were facing Gardner Minshew. Okay, they weren't going to stretch the offense out and test out Houston defense. Here's the stats. If you want the numbers, the Chargers have the number 4 offense in the league, yards per play at 7.4 yards per play. But they have the 17th ranked defense. They're going to be facing Houston's defense that's worse than theirs, ranked 25th. This is gold. I'm taking this game over all day long. As Ace would say, we're printing money with this one. You're going to see both teams go up and down the field. Look for a game like you saw from Houston on the Monday night game against the Saints. I'm projecting 58 points in this game, 47.5. I'm all over. It's my best bet of the week.
2 dogs in a total.
All right. I hope you guys enjoyed tonight's show as much as we did doing it. We would love to hear what you thought of the show. Please jump in the comments. Leave us a comment below. We're going to try to interact with everyone in the comments section. Be sure to give us a thumbs up. Hit the subscribe and notification button so you will always be the first to know when next week's show's out. Till next week, let's bet on it.